Right, now we're going into a little bit more detail on techniques. So let's put this, I've got a better sponge with me this time, so it's a bit more comfortable and I can see a little bit better. Right, we've got low sunlight, so that's a good thing to have, because I want to talk about low sunlight and leaving trails or directional change marks. So we're going a little bit further now into more advanced ways of working. But before I do that, I thought I'd comment on whenever I do speak on camera, and the reason why I haven't spoke on camera for a good number of years is whenever I say something, it stirs up emotions and controversy, and I'm either arguing with someone or someone else is arguing with someone else. This is what I don't like about the internet, and I don't like, I just don't like all the crap that goes with people's opinions. Now, opinions are people's thoughts. What I'm talking about is opinions of mine, which are facts. So, and I'm also happy to say, on the other hand, that I've had many comments from people saying they've done the things that I've suggested so far, and it's really improved their ways of working. They've got faster, they're working smarter, and they're working with less effort, and they're getting better results. So what I say is just things that really I do. There's no right or wrong way. You just work how you want to work, but when it comes down to the setup, my way is a more effective way to get the benefits of the working system. So you can do it whatever you want, your working setup. If you want to stick to how you want to do it, that's fine, but I'm showing you the best way of doing it, the most efficient way of doing it, and the most simplest way of doing it. What's more simple? Adding a splodge of concentrated soap on the glass and rubbing it in, or making a concoction with this, that and the other poured into a bottle, and then yeah, okay, it cleans the window, you get some slip and some glide and some cleaning power, but it's never as good and as controllable as just putting a splodge of soap on the glass, rub it in, start squeegeeing. And I also should go back on what I said on some of the videos that I said about me having more knowledge than other people. When it comes to squeegees, ways of working, water fed pole, you know, I do it, but I don't really talk about it. It's not a passion of mine. So I'm just talking about squeegees and how to work techniques, that kind of thing. So let's talk about low sunlight and what that causes. So what happens is, if I was looking from the inside out, all I'd see on the glass is a load of where you see all the dust and the imperfections in the glass, the scratches. You know, it's like they're like little crystals, sort of thing. I mean, I can see now just by looking from outside in that there's marks on the glass, but obviously if you're looking from the other way, you can see it a lot more magnified. So the problem is, I mean, it's my favourite time of year to work now, and I like low sunlight. I like it. I just find it much more enjoyable to work in. But there is a problem. Wherever you put your squeegee, it leaves a trail, and an invisible trail. And in certain circumstances, if there's condensation, for example, build up, your trail stops being invisible. So once you've cleaned the glass, it leaves. I'm leaving an invisible trail. And if we had like a heater, my boiler's up in the roof, so that's not going to happen here. But if I had a heater here and it was putting out steam, condensation out the boiler, it will go onto this window and it will just highlight all the pathways that I've took this squeegee. So and then you know, your customers will can often complain when they say, well, the window got all stripes on the glass. What also makes well, there's nothing you can do about that. And also, if you've got constant condensation, what happens is once the air and the dust settles on the glass, and the more this steam comes on, it just builds up, and all the dust and dirt will build up on these trails anyway. But that's window cleaning. You know, you go back next month or whenever you got to go back and you clean it again, and then the whole process starts again. So, oh, this bloody thing keeps falling down. Right, so what I'm going to talk about is where the blade goes back on itself on a pivot. So you get people doing this kind of technique up, and then they come down. But if you watch this part of the squeegee, what's happening is it's going back on itself, and then we've got a mark here. Now if we look in where I'm pointing in that shadow, you can see where the mark is. So there, I've left a mark. Now on precision squeegees, no matter what sort of precision squeegee you're talking about, of a homemade or this, that's always going to happen. And it will always happen also on a normal squeegee. It's just not as highlighted, and because we've got this downward pressure, it pushes the solution back on itself more so. So no matter what squeegee you use, it leaves a trail, and if it has to go back on itself going down like this, you will leave a pivot directional change mark. So I mean, I'm not really a fan of doing that movement, but I'm more of a fan of doing, this is more complex. It's but it's a shorter way of working. So if I just come down here, let's just leave that there for a second. I've got a twist mark here. Now, maybe we can see we can't really see here in the shadow. We're looking at the shadow when the sun's gone in now. But what you got is a twist mark where the rubber goes back on itself. So I'm more of it's a more complex movement. It's quicker because I'm only going up once and then coming down, whereas that movement is up, down, but it's still obviously quicker than doing this. But sometimes on some windows, when they're not forgiving, it's just best to do a regular movement. So right, so how do you prevent that mark from happening? So this is one way of doing it. Right, so when you're coming up, right, so I'm coming down, and what I'm going to do is, because this is all dry here, I've got less chance of, when I come back over and I do it again, because I've worked on this dry part, I've took all the residue off, and I've took that swell mark, that directional change mark up here, and we're now coming down here because it's so much drier, there's less water on the glass, and because it always comes back to the same thing, because I've got the control of the solution, I've not got the drips, I've got the glide as well, I'm cutting into there, I've got no drips. So because I've got that control of that consistency, which I made myself just by rubbing in a splodge of soap, you can't get that consistency and you can't get that control with another type of solution. You just can't get it. Right, so what I do is, I do it again, come down. Right, so let's watch this. Come round, we've got some swells here, come back over the dry part, come back down, and now there ain't nothing there. So it's, I just readjust over that mark that I've made. I've got to use a smaller squeegee now, do the same movement, it's already primed. So we come round, come down. Right, so if I just left it like this, we've got some residue, but if I could flip back over on the dry part, then come back down, I fix it. Now, no one has taught you how to do this on YouTube, well, no one knows about it. I think it's something that I found out through persistence. So all the information that I do give you is fresh, never been spoken about before. Maybe some people have seen me work and copied the way I work and so how I readjust my positioning to catch that directional change mark before I come on the downstroke. But I'm proud to say that because I invented these squeegees, I also invented that fix on a up down movement. But it's the same scenario with this. If I'm going up, round, I've got to collect this, come down, because I'm not really doing the technique properly. I'm just showing you where I fixed the mark, and then I come round and close up here. So if I use a little bit of a bigger squeegee, we get that twist and that turning and that movement on with the squeegee sometimes going back on itself, because we've got that extra downward pressure. We have to I fix it without having to get the rag and detailing it. So there's two ways of fixing it. There's either you fix it with a squeegee with a technique change, or you fix it with a cloth. And maybe a third way of fixing it is, if you're silly enough to bend the end clip straight, then you won't get as much residue on the twist, but you'll always have that mark there. And because the sun's so low in the sky at the moment, everything's magnified. So I hope this makes sense. I'll just do it one more time. I see a lot of people doing this kind of technique, do it on doors and stuff like that. So we come here, and now because we've come down, we've pushed that solution down. So if you come back up on the dry part and then realign it, it's gone, completely gone. It might not work for the first few times. You just got to persist with it and perfect it. But I don't really do this up down technique. I'm more of a full up round movement circle, or a variant of a circle. But you fix all your turn marks and twist marks, and this is very important when you want to get to the next level of cleaning the glass as quickly as possible without rushing it. So I might as well clean the rest of this glass, because it does need cleaning, but I'll do it in a more regular way, because this squeegee's 14-inch and this pane's a lot wider than that. It's probably about 20 odd inches. So we'll just go a normal route. So this is the sort of thing I would do on a difficult window to work on that's causing stab or friction. I've got some muck here, and because I don't have my proper scratcher tools with me, I'll have to use this worn out end here. I can get it off just about. So that's it. I'm just going to finish this off, and then I'll shut the video off. If you've got any comments, ask me. Oh, got some dirt here, but let's not have arguments over it, eh? Ta-da.